Check out those waves crashing over those cars in Malta. Now, this happened over the weekend, and this was a rare event. Now, this was a tropical storm that formed in the Mediterranean Sea, the eastern Mediterranean Sea, where you typically don't see this type of tropical activity. But we did this weekend a bit of a Halloween surprise. Typically, we're talking about these things in the Atlantic or the Pacific, but there it is. It started out as Invest 90M, and then became a tropical system just east of Malta. You can see it blowing up right there. So this happened over the weekend. It did dissipate. The waves was pretty much the extent of it. The Eastern Mediterranean didn't have a lot to support this system, but very impressive.
This map shows a swarm of more than 30 small earthquakes shaking up the Salton Sea and Island. This area is known for geothermal activity, and a much larger swarm of earthquakes rocked this area a few weeks ago. Experts say these small tremors aren't very worrisome, but they have the potential to be the last bit of force needed to awaken a sleeping giant. The southern end of the San Andreas Fault has not had a major earthquake in more than 325 years.
It is stuck. And so at some point, the strain is going to become great enough that it unlocks in potentially a very large earthquake. There's no guarantee that it will be a large earthquake, but it could be.
The probability of our section of the San Andreas Fault coming to life is almost impossible to predict. The United States Geological Survey wants people to be ready.
Since all of Southern California is basically earthquake country, you would think everybody would be prepared for the big one to hit. Well, I talked to a few people today. Some were, and some weren't.
No, definitely not. But I haven't felt them, and so, out of sight, out of mind, I'm not worried.
We know what we need to do if an earthquake happens, that's for sure. We try to keep a little extra water on hand and a little canned food and things like that.
Now would be a good time to make sure you have enough food, water, and any prescriptions you take on hand, just in case.
Cal State Bakersfield today, there were zombies walking around the school campus. It was the school's first zombie apocalypse. Not sure where the zombies are, but apparently this was the school's first zombie apocalypse. Students took part in a scavenger hunt, all for the sake of emergency preparedness. Different stations were set up across campus to gather supplies for a disaster kit. The school's chief of police says it was a fun way to approach a very serious issue.
Ultimately, we want them to have some fun, but at the same time, learn about emergency preparedness and also give them the opportunity to have their own personal emergency preparedness bag.
The items are meant to help students survive an emergency for 24 to 48 hours.
A booklet with guidelines on how to be prepared for a possible Russian invasion has been published by the Lithuanian Defense Ministry. The booklet includes practical advice, but also images of Russian tanks and weapons for civilians to recognize, and will be distributed widely. Lithuania shares a border with the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad.
When hackers broke into Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman John Podesta's private email account, little did they know they were entering the Twilight Zone. Amid the gossip about the inner workings of the campaign was irrefutable proof that UFOs were on the radar of one of Washington's best-known power brokers. In a June 25, 2014 email disclosed by WikiLeaks, the late NASA astronaut Edgar Mitchell requested a conversation with you and President Obama regarding the next steps in extraterrestrial disclosure for the benefit of our country and our planet. Mitchell, as a subsequent email revealed, could not make it and requested a Skype sit-down. It's not clear if that meeting happened either. Mitchell died on February 4th, 2016. Podesta also got multiple emails from Blink-182 guitarist and UFO enthusiast Tom DeLonge. They revealed that Podesta took part in a documentary about extraterrestrials DeLonge was producing. The Clinton campaign has yet to confirm the authenticity of WikiLeaks emails, which the U.S. government has blamed on the Russians, and Podesta did not return an email for comment about his otherworldly interests.
Nearly 600,000 children under the age of 5 die every year from diseases caused by air pollution, and millions more live in places where they could easily meet the same fate. According to a new report published by the United Nations Children's Fund, about 300 million kids around the world are breathing highly toxic air. The report cites numbers from 2012. The majority of these children live in South Asia, where air pollution has reached levels at least 6 times higher than what the World Health Organization has deemed safe. Because young kids' lungs and brains are still developing, toxic air can cause serious health problems. UNICEF's report was released just days before the UN Climate Change Conference is set to begin in Morocco. The organization is urging world leaders to start taking steps to reduce air pollution in their countries.
According to data reviewed by Reuters, American women are ending pregnancies with medication almost as often as with surgery. This marks a turning point for abortion in the United States. The watershed comes amid an overall decline in abortions, a choice that remains politically charged in the United States. It continues to spark fiery exchange in the final debate between presidential nominees Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. When the two medications used to induce abortion won U.S. approval 16 years ago, the method was expected to quickly overtake the surgical option, as it has in much of Europe.
British scientists have recently developed a new artificial intelligence method that could be used to predict the outcomes of trials. 584 cases have been predicted to a 79% accuracy using this new tool. The method is the first to predict the outcomes of a major international court by automatically analyzing case texts using a machine learning algorithm.
So what we did was to, first of all, train our algorithm, which identifies only words without understanding what they mean, trying to identify patterns within those cases and make correlations with the outcomes. When we did that training, then we got particular sections or parts of the case, we fed them again at the algorithm, and we asked it how it would predict the outcome. That's where the 79% accuracy came in. Again, it's average accuracy, and the idea was to, at the very least, use this as a tool that can assist lawyers, judges, and other legal scholars.
Just more than a week to go until Election Day, and this morning there is new concern over potential voter fraud here in Arizona.
Yeah, this is a story you will see first right here on ABC 15 Mornings, and Katie Connor is tracking this developing situation.
And of course, Katie, there's been accusations over voter fraud for quite some time.
Yeah, and we did some digging ourselves, Danielle, and we found a man who is not a U.S. citizen, but was able to register to vote through this website right here.
I didn't want to get in trouble. I still don't want to get in trouble.
And this man reached out to ABC 15 upset that he could register to vote even though he's not a U.S. citizen. We aren't going to reveal his name. However, he says he's lived in the U.S. legally since the 80s. A few months ago, he bet a buddy he could register to vote, so he applied online using his true name, social security, and driver's license number. He says the only box he checked inaccurately was legal U.S. citizen.
I applied through a Facebook ad and submitted it, didn't think nothing of it, and I'm sitting in bed one night and my wife's like, "You got your voter's card," and that was that.
And we wanted more answers, so we reached out to the Maricopa County Recorder's Office. They said they had no idea about this loophole. Coming up at 5:30, what an investigator said when he called this man.
A bomb scare on a passenger jet waiting to take off from Fort Lauderdale, when authorities say one passenger told the flight crew that he saw another passenger texting about a bomb.
And where you are, the aircraft then had a bomb threat. I would like to declare an emergency.
Those are the frightening words from a Spirit Airlines pilot in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, before taking off for Dallas. Authorities say a passenger said he saw a text message on another passenger's phone, possibly about a bomb.
It came via a text message about a passenger. Other passengers did see the message, and then the passenger turned off the phone. So that's all I have so far.
Passengers were evacuated, leaving all of their bags behind. The passenger with the alleged text message and the man who reported it removed by sheriff's deputies and interviewed by the FBI.
They ripped him out of the seat and dragged him off the plane.
And David, that flight did end up taking off, but hours later, tonight the local sheriff says there was no bomb and no arrests have been made in this case.
Some brand new surveillance video showing the frightening moments when a man went on a rampage with a machete. It happened last year at the New Orleans airport. Look at this disturbing scene as we get a first look at what this was like for these poor people who were terrified. The suspect, Richard White, going through security when TSA agents tried to stop him. He hit the agents with bug spray, pulls out a machete, and runs through the checkpoint. The sheriff's deputy then shooting White, who died the next day. an investigation finding that he was carrying firecrackers and gasoline bombs as well.
For the first time since the late 1980s, a U.S. Navy submarine carrying nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles is visiting the Pacific island of Guam. According to a Navy press statement, the USS Pennsylvania is making what the Navy formally calls a scheduled port visit to the U.S. territory in the Pacific. But a U.S. defense official says both Japanese and South Korean delegations are in Guam at this time. They'll be offered rare tours of the submarine. The visit is being made in part so the U.S. can show its presence to allies and adversaries in the region. It comes as military tensions are high with both North Korea over its nuclear program and China over its moves in the South China Sea.
It has emerged that the United States temporarily deployed a state-of-the-art radar system to the Korean Peninsula recently. South Korean military officials say the sea-based X-band radar was deployed for around a month, but they did not specify the purpose of the deployment. It went back to Hawaii late last month. The X-band is a floating, mobile, active early warning radar station that's capable of detecting an incoming missile from a range of up to 2,000 kilometers. It came as North Korea conducted a nuclear test and tested a long-distance missile engine in September. The regime also attempted to test fire 2 Musudan missiles in October. Experts say the radar was likely deployed to better detect North Korea's strategic provocations.
Tensions flare between migrants and police at a makeshift camp in Paris. Officers moved in to clear tents from pavements where hundreds of migrants have gathered. Makeshift camps have sprung up since the demolition began of the migrant camp at Calais.
This morning police is coming, all people thinking tomorrow morning police is coming, give house, give this maybe giving it to camp. Where is he sleeping, these people? Here is very cold. This is not life. This is in the animal life.
بشدة هذه الجريمة التي شاهدناها أمام أعيننا لأنها جريمة مع سبق الإصرار والترصد.
Reconstruire, de bâtir quelque chose qui se base sur la centralité des droits humains et de leur respect, eh bien on nous dit non. Et là c'est un ras-le-bol, on est vraiment fatigué de toute cette humiliation.
There's been an angry reaction in Ukraine to revelations that many politicians are even more staggeringly wealthy than had been suspected. Some have millions of dollars in cash. Others own luxury cars, Swiss watches, diamond jewellery, fur coats, land. One declared a $10,000 bottle of wine. Under an anti-corruption reform, they now have to declare their assets, unlike before.
They did not have to declare cash. They did not have to declare expensive watches, expensive cars, expensive property, and now they have to declare all of it. So far, what I can see, it's already a kind of a new revolution for Ukraine.
The Prime Minister, Volodymyr Groysman, and his wife have cash reserves worth around $1.5 million. President Poroshenko's declaration reveals he has over $26 million in bank accounts. The former chocolate king's business fortune is estimated at many times that figure. The UN says the declarations are a first step to reform. The declarations are part of an IMF-backed reform designed to prevent officials from amassing wealth through corruption. But in a country where the average salary is around €200 per month, the revelations may further dent public confidence in politicians.
Just 3 words, yes we can, a slogan that will forever be associated with Barack Obama and his victorious campaign of 2008, the young black senator who believed in the American dream and the spirit of change. The end of the war in Iraq, reform of the health system, social justice, racial equality. His campaign promises captured the enthusiasm of tens of millions of people, particularly perhaps in his adopted city of Chicago. It was there where he met Michelle, and they lived for more than 20 years. He worked as a social worker, a lawyer, a professor, before becoming a senator. It was also in Chicago that the first black president of the United States delivered his victory speech on November the 4th, 2008, before an electrified crowd. But 8 years and 2 terms later, what remains of the aura of Obama?
Chicago is recovering today from the deadliest weekend of the year. 17 people were killed and dozens more wounded in shootings across the city.
This is where I came from, oh God. This is where we all came from. So right now the blood is crying up from the ground. The blood is spilled on the ground, all over Inglewood, all over Chicago. Oh Lord, right now we know that it's shooting and it's killing. We know it's all kind of stuff that's going on in the neighborhood. But God, we know that you can remove all of the hate.
I tell you this not for praise or anything. I'm just telling you because this is pretty intense.
Josette Duran's emotional Facebook Live video is getting a lot of attention. She's been packing her son's lunch and an extra one since the beginning of the school year because her son asked her to.
He said, "No, Mom, it's for this little boy at school," and he sits by himself and all he eats is a fruit cup.
The school principal called Duran into the office because that little boy's mom found out Duran had been feeding her son.
She says, I know this isn't much, but I just got a job, and I know you've been feeding my son.
Duran says she couldn't accept the single mother's money. The girls' volleyball team that Duran coaches also raised more than $400 to pay her back, but she took that money straight to the cafeteria.
We paid up all the past due accounts for all the kids that need lunch, right? So now no one in that school owes any lunch money to anybody and everybody can eat.
Duran found out the little boy's mom lost her job and couldn't afford to pay for his school lunches. It's something Duran says she knows all too well.
This hits home to me because a few years ago, me and my son were homeless. I was living in my car. I was washing him in bathrooms, and we didn't have food.
Not only has Duran taught this school a valuable lesson in compassion and kindness,
I have friends, and I'm doing better in school. And you have a great son, and he is my best friend.
She's also created a new friendship.
To